on PowerTalk AM 1460 and FM 101.1. Streaming worldwide on iHeart Radio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.
You're listening to The Jan Price Show, and today my guest is Jon Abrahams, and he is an actor, director, and we're going to be talking about his brand new film entitled Clover. Welcome to the show, Jon.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. This movie is really interesting. It's a lot of fun. It takes a number of different twists and turns, and you think it's going to go one way, and then it goes an entirely different direction. So that's rather fun. How did you get involved with this project, and why did you decide to direct it?
So the movie is written by Michael Testone, who also wrote my first film that I directed called All at Once, which came out a couple of years ago. And we wanted to work together again. And I had an idea that I had been knocking around in my brain for a long time. One of my favorite films is a movie called Mikey and Nicky, which was directed by Elaine May and stars Peter Falk and John Cassavetes. And I just love that film, and I had been wanting to kind of do something in that arena, something that involved, in that film it's two friends, but something that involved two brothers who were close in age and some sort of Shakespearean betrayal undertone and set in the crime world. And I kind of brought these ideas up to Mike, and he had some thoughts, and he went off and we kind of broke story together, and then he went off and did his thing to it, and that's what you see on the screen. So I had already directed a film before this, and the older I get and the more time that I've been in this business, I'm looking for more and more directing work. So it just felt like the right thing to do next, do
you want give the plot line to our audience so they know a little bit about what the movie's about and what we'll be talking about?
Sure. So Clover is a throwback crime comedy, drawing its inspirations from the movies of the 60s and 70s and 80s and even some 90s films that I grew up watching and loving. And it's about two idiot brothers who owe some money to a local loan shark and agree to do a job to settle their debt. And they go to do the job with the loan shark's son, and the job goes wrong, and the loan shark's son is killed, and a little girl is pegged as the killer of the loan shark's son. So now the two idiot brothers have to protect this young girl and get her out of town safely over the course of about 48 hours. And trouble ensues. I mentioned the Shakespearean thing before, and it's kind of interesting because it may not be exactly what I had initially thought of, but a friend of mine calls Clover Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead as a mob picture. And, I think it really is that.
Yes, that's a good description.
It really is the two fools whose fate is being written, and they have no idea. And they're just kind of running around unbeknownst that their fate is coming. So that's the best way I could summarize it.
It's excellent, and it really is. It's a lot of fun, and as I said, I love the fact that when you're watching it, you're thinking, it's going to go this way, and then all of a sudden, nope, it takes a sharp turn in a different direction, and so I like that. It keeps you guessing, and that makes the movie enjoyable and a lot of fun. Where did you film this movie, Jon?
So we shot the movie in Buffalo, New York.
I lived in Rochester for a long, long time, so
there you go. No stranger to Western New York then.
No.
We actually made our first film in Buffalo as well, and I love working there. They have a really great little film community and really great crew. And, there's a really great thing about shooting in Buffalo, which is certainly in the case of Clover, where, there's a lot of big action sequences and stuff like that. It's a lot more maneuverable than, say, shooting it in New York City. The mayor is very kind there, and the film commission is great. And so we kind of call them up and say, hey, we have this movie and we want to shoot on the subway. And they say, no problem, when you want to shoot. And they give us, everything we need very quickly. And it's great. And it really lends itself to the production production value of the film, I think. There's a lot of locations in Clover that we would never have gotten in bigger cities. So
that's nice to hear that it's become such a conducive place for you to work. Why did you choose it initially? Were you aware of how well the community and the mayor and everybody worked with the film industry, or was it just happenstance?
Well, the answer is twofold. One is my best friend, Matthew Quinn, who's also my cinematographer. He's born and raised there, and he lives there now. And so when putting all at once together, he suggested that we shoot there. And also, at the time, Western New York was offering the biggest tax rebate out there in the film world, so in the film rebate world. So, and I believe Western New York still has, or New York outside of the 5 boroughs still has one of the highest rebates there is. So both of those things were major factors, and always are. When you're trying to put together a film and you're on a tight budget, knowing that you're going to get some of that money back is very handy.
How long did it take you? Yes, it is very handy. How long did it take you from coming up with the concept and then having your friend write it and then getting the financing? How long was that process for you?
Well, look, in the grand scheme of things, it was very, very quick for a film. In our case, I believe, from inception to shooting Clover was maybe a year.
Wow.
And yeah. And then, it's been about another, from shooting to now to its release, it's been about 2 years. And, as time goes on with independent film, that's become kind of the norm. It takes about 2 years once you've made the film to get it out there. It used to be a lot less time, but everything's sort of changed nowadays. So, that's
not too bad, though, John, because I've talked to a lot of independent filmmakers who, sometimes they work years and years and years. And so that's a pretty quick turnaround of many, or if you're saying it's sort of average, then perhaps.
It is. We've been very lucky. We made, I've directed 3 feature films in the last 6 years, which is lucky, extremely lucky. And in the case of Clover, in the case of Clover, from inception to release being about 3 years is very, very quick. People try to get movies made for 10 years. That's sort of the norm. Is it's like a 10-year process. So we were very lucky.
Yes, very lucky. So, see, you've attracted a really interesting, wonderful cast. How did you've got great people in this, Chaz Palminteri, Ron Perlman. Tell me, how did you, and Mark Webber, Erica Christensen, how did you attract all of these people to your project?
Well, so I am a big fan of trying to build a repertory from movie to movie, and so I like to work with people that I've worked with in the past. I also firmly believe that you cannot buy chemistry, and so there's a few of those actors. Erica Christensen is one, and there's a few others in Clover that were in my first film and are actually very good personal friends of mine. And in the case of Mark Webber, I knew Mark and I both came up as actors in New York City about 25 years ago, and so we used to see each other at auditions all the time. And when getting around to making Clover, I felt like once I realized that I was going to step in and act in the project, I felt like whoever was going to play my brother should hopefully be somebody that I had a relationship with, because you don't have a lot of rehearsal time on movies, and like I said, can't buy chemistry. So I wanted there to be a history there, and so luckily Mark was into it, and I think it really paid off. One of the best things I hear from so many people about Clover is that they, the brothers' relationship is so real, and there's a lot of chemistry there.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yeah, and then, in the case of Chaz and Ron, I had not worked with them before, but I think that, they saw my first film, and I think they understood that I approach things from an actor's point of view, and that, I'm very into character. Character is very important, and I think that's what allured them to the project, as well as Tashina Arnold. I kind of knew as friends from before, but we had never worked together, and I'm so happy she came in. She's wonderful. I love Tashina.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of them is we just slowly kind of collect people into their repertory, and hopefully we'll continue working with them.
Well, it does. I know you hear that a lot from a lot of directors, and that they work with they like to work with Scorsese and Woody Allen and the best. They all Spielberg. They all have their team of people that they enjoy working with, and some sometimes they work multiple times with particular actors when they can, and there's a shorthand I think that takes place when you begin to work together a lot and understand each other in the process and what you all go through. I love the opening scene of this film. With Ron Perlman, I thought that just pulled you right in right away, which was great. Not a lot of times the movie doesn't a movie may not pull you in as quickly, but this one does. And that opening scene, who was that? Did you have any collaboration on that part of it, or was that more from the screenwriter?
Well, I think it was mainly the screenwriter at first, and then obviously as you're filming and editing, things will, you collaborate to make the best of what the writer has put down. But yeah, I mean, that was his initial idea. And I think, there's something that we wanted to play with in Clover, which is a bit of sort of magical realism and a bit of, I designed Clover to kind of partially feel like a graphic novel or comic book in a way. And, I think Ron kind of serves as a pseudo narrator in that sense, is opening the film with him in that way. And it's he's not a narrator throughout, but it just kind of sets up like the kind of prologue of the film in a really great way. And so I think that we wanted to have that sort of literary feeling to it. And I think that was, mainly Mike, but also, discussions as we moved forward about how the film should open.
Well, it's a really interesting opening, and I don't want to give anything away, but it really is. What was the most difficult part of filming this movie?
The most difficult part of filming this movie? Well, we shot in Buffalo, New York in the winter.
Oh, well, there you go.
And
you don't have to say too much more. No,
that's right. So if you know where Buffalo is and you know what winters are like, that ought to make sense.
They have real winter there.
They have real winter there, and the movie sort of obviously takes place in winter. It's not like we were trying to say it was summer. And it makes for harsh conditions. You're shooting all night long in like 10-degree temperature. It's very cold. However, that sort of lends something to the ether of the movie because, you have a lot of characters that are in a very tense, uncomfortable situation. And so, what you see in the tightness of some of the actors in the film is attributed definitely to the harshness of the Buffalo winter.
I imagine that was very difficult to film during the wintertime in Buffalo. Yeah. If you're just tuning in, my guest today is actor-director Jon Abrahams, and we're talking about his brand new movie, Clover. Jon, how has the coronavirus pandemic affected you and this movie and bringing it out and to the public? How has this, what we're all going through collectively, how has it affected you personally with getting this movie out to an audience?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. So I am of an age where I think of movies, when I think of movies, I think of them being in movie theaters. I made Clover to be one of those films, and it's harder and harder these days to make a movie that actually plays in movie theaters. And so, lucky for us, Clover was set to come out April 3rd in movie theaters nationwide. However, due to the pandemic, obviously theaters are shuttered. So we decided to continue on with our release instead of delaying anyway, in the hopes that there's a lot of people who are stuck at home and looking for entertainment and escapism, and they will watch it there, in the comforts of their own home. For me, it's a bitter pill to swallow, because, like I said, you work really hard to get a movie and have it play in a theater, and, you make a movie for a big screen, or I did. But I think there's a silver lining here, and also, this is a global surrender that's happening, and it's a bitter pill for me to swallow locally in regards to my movie, but there are a lot more bitter pills being swallowed right now that are a lot more heavy and important. And so, what are you going to do? It is what it is. And hopefully, more people get to see the movie. I mean, ideally, your hope is that people see your art. And so whether it's on a big screen or a small screen or whatever it is, your hope is that you get eyes. And so we hope that we get a lot of eyes on it,
So since the show is airing on the 4th of April, where can people find Clover?
Okay, so Clover is coming out on demand, both cable and digital, April 3rd, this Friday, April 3rd. And I can read you a list of some of the places it's available if you give me 1 second.
Please do that, yeah.
1 second.
No worries.
I just have to pull this up because I don't have it in front of me.
Because we want people to see this movie. If you're certainly sitting at home right now, and there's so much to choose from, and this is a great way to curate for you, and highly recommend watching this movie, Clover. It's fun. It's a fun movie. It's got, as I said, it's got a lot to it. It's not just one genre. It's multiple genres. So it's a fun way to spend some of your time at home.
That's right.
That's what we're all doing.
You escape your quarantine for a minute with our film. So Clover is available April 3rd on video on demand on the following cable providers: Spectrum, Cox, Altus, Fios, Comcast. On satellite, it's available on DirecTV and Sling and the Dish Network. And then digitally, it is available on Fandango Now, iTunes, YouTube, Vudu, PlayStation, Xbox One, Google Play, and Amazon.com. So pretty much anywhere you have a video on demand, whether it's cable or digital or satellite, you can catch Clover this Friday.
That's great. That is great. That you're giving very good coverage, so people can see this just about anywhere. And again, I highly recommend it. What was the first film that inspired you? You had mentioned Mickey and Nicky with John Cassavetes that Elaine May had directed, who was just an amazing director. But were there other films that was there one movie that when you saw, you said, that's what I want to do? I want to be an actor at that point, and now as you going into directing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've loved movies since I was a very small person. My father worked. He made music videos when I was young, and, he comes from a long line of behind-the-scenes film people. And so I was shown a lot of things from a young age, and I can't think of the one movie that made me go, I want to do this. I just always liked it. I am somebody who has, mutual interests in not just acting, but also music and visual art. And so I wasn't really looking to be a professional actor. It happened for me. I got picked off the street and ended up in a movie called Kids, directed by Larry Clark, which was the first movie I was in. And, I liked acting at the time, but I wasn't sure I wanted to do it professionally. And then doors continued to open, and I felt like I should take that path. But I like directing more at this point because it encompasses all of my interests in the arts as opposed to acting, which kind of becomes more and more of a singular focus. Directing, I believe, for me, encompasses my interest in visual arts and music and acting and all these things. So it sort of satiates me more, I would say. Yeah. You did ask me for films that were inspiring. Taxi Driver is my favorite movie ever. And so definitely a film that I study and watch over and over again. And when I got to be in high school, I think I started seeing a lot of John Cassavetes films. And, that was a game changer for me. I really love John Cassavetes' work, and it's an inspiration for me in everything I do. I think these are his words, but it's sort of like visual jazz. And I'm a jazz guy. So, sometimes trying to get to a point where you're making visual jazz is the goal. So
I like that, visual jazz. Very good. So what are you going to be doing next? Are you working on another film at this present time?
Yeah, I'm in post on my third film that I've directed. It's called Exploited, which is a horror thriller set in the webcam fetish world, and we're post on that right now. So I would say look for that in the next year or so. It's called Exploited. And past that, just trying to work. I like to work. So whether that's acting or directing, always looking for the next job. That's my real job.
What is that, right now with everything that's going on around the world, but obviously particularly in Hollywood, how is that affecting you right now? I mean, are people still doing auditions? Or, are you doing video auditions? Or is there work out there? Are people seeking, actors and directors right now? Or things, I felt from my end, from my business end, things kind of stopped. I wasn't hearing from publicists very much to promote films. And I think everybody was taking a deep breath and re-gauging. And I know people are getting very, very creative just in general about releasing their films. I'm getting all kinds of things now, but it seems like everybody kind of recalibrated and then finally just said, okay, we're going to do things differently and this is how we're going to do them. Are you finding, since you are in LA, right in the heart of all of it, are you finding that to be true?
I am finding that to be true. I would say presently on the acting side, there's not much going on, but I do think that there's a lot of development happening. I think this is a great time to be a writer.
Yes.
I think that there's a lot of places taking a breath and looking forward to a year from now when they're going to need an arsenal of new shows and new movies to make. So I think there's a lot of attention on writers right now. And, I think things will pick up again. I think it's tough to say. It's tough to say when production will pick back up, but presently it is quiet. But I think you put it nicely. It really is a good time for everybody to reset and sort of think about what's important and how to move forward once this settles a little bit.
I think that we're going to, I'm a Pollyanna anyhow, but I think we're going to come out of this even stronger and better. I think the whole world as a whole, I believe will, but I think the film industry in particular, because that's where both of our hearts lie, is the film industry. And I think people are just going to treat each other a little differently after this. I think we're all caught, that's happening now. Everybody's just coming from a deeper place of love, I believe. And the film industry has always bounced back. I agree with you. I think movies should be seen in the movie theater. I say that all the time on this show. It's very important to see it in the movie theater, I believe. But right now, since we can't, we're so grateful for all of the other ways that we can watch films now that were not available before to us. So, and it's great that we'll get to see Clover. Everybody, please look for Clover. I highly recommend it, and it's out now. And John, I just wish you the best, and I would love to have you back on the show with your next film.
Thank you so much. I will definitely come back on the show anytime you'd like. I really appreciate it all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And please stay safe.
I was going to say the same. Yes, you stay safe and healthy too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen.
You're welcome, John. You have been listening. Day. Yes, you too. Thank you. You've been listening to The Jan Price Show, all about movies. And now you can listen to my show anywhere, anytime. And you can listen to it on the iHeart Podcast Network, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and on your smart TV. Also, you can go to thejanpriceshow.com to listen to archived shows. Thank you for listening.
On PowerTalk AM 1460 and FM 101.1, streaming worldwide on iHeart Radio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.